Hello and welcome to another episode of the How To Video channel. My name is Daitech, CTO at DVS. Thank you for all your likes, shares and subscribes. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. Instead of a how to, I'm going to show you a not what to do video. So typically we're going to do a new series that effectively sort of deconstructs some of the devices that we use every day in the surveillance industry to give you an understanding of what is inside the box. So we're going to call it What's in the Box. Ta-da! Yeah, great name, I know. Please, if you've got any better suggestions, please do let us know. So the first in this episode is what is in a surveillance hard drive. So in front of me, I have a very generic, I've removed the label, a very generic surveillance hard drive. And in the name of the security industry, I'm going to take this apart to give you a better understanding of what is inside the device so you don't have to spend your money, deconstruct it, and then see what's inside. So typically, all of our back-end devices, whether it's a DVR or an NVR or a mobile recorder, they all require a storage device. Now, we sell a brand called Toshiba, so they're well, most people will understand what Toshiba are. There are other manufacturers in the market. There's sort of around 4 big manufacturers of surveillance hard drives specifically. Now, we get this question a lot at DVS. Why can't I use a desktop drive for my surveillance recorder? The short answer is, well, you can, but it won't work as effectively as a surveillance hard drive. A surveillance hard drive is completely different to a normal hard drive you use in your desktop. From the way they make the componentry, or a lot of the componentry is interchangeable, completely understand that, but a lot of the way that the firmware or the unit that the device operates itself really does differentiate it from a standard desktop drive. Now, it's really important that you as an installer are offering the correct equipment inside the DVR. Here at DVS, if you buy a DVR NVR office with storage, we fit this device inside so you don't have to. It saves you time, money, and we also check upon point of installation that these hard drives work. Really important. Again, you can buy them from many sites available on the www, but specifically at DVS, we make sure your device is compatible with your back-end device. It's really, really important. This is one of the core fundamentals of your CCTV system. Now, if you put a substandard part in there, or you choose to save money and offer a drive that's not compatible or not up to the job, the system will ultimately fail. So the backbone of the system is the recording. You know, it's great to have the live view. If you don't have a recording, especially when you go back to look at an event, whether it's an incident, an event, and you don't have the recording, the CCTV system effectively is useless. So that's why we do so much emphasis around choosing the correct drive for your device. Now, in front of me, I have a very, like I said, generic hard drive. This happens to be a 4 terabyte hard drive model. Now, there are different storage versions available. We do them from 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte, which is still the industry common, or still the most common in the industry, I should say it the right way around. 6 terabyte, 8 terabyte, 10 terabyte. A lot of our DVRs and NVRs now support 10 terabyte, and we're going into the 12, 14s, and soon 20 terabyte arena. So whilst the camera encoding has come down, so we've gone from an older H.264 format, and before that MPEG. Now H.265, this reduced the bandwidth and the storage capability, but people are adding more and more cameras to the system for their applications, and they require the retention to be longer. Therefore, they're putting more and more emphasis on the recording capacity. So the hard drive. So this is the hard drive. Very different to an SD card or an SSD drive. We do offer some SSD drives in our mobile recorders. This technology is very different. So I'm going to just quickly show you how these connect up. So on the back of all of these drives, let me just bring it a little bit closer for you guys. So you'll see on the back of this, you'll see mounting holes. So these are the drilled mounting holes that go through the chassis of the recorder, DVR, NVR, and bolt it to the chassis to keep it nice and stable. Normally in this orientation, so they're flat. On the back of the recorder, let me just change this to clear. So on the back of the device, you will see the two connectors for the power and the SATA for the data. So they come with these, and they are orientated. If you look at the plug, you can see there is an L-shaped orientation to it. So it's important that that connects in. That goes in there. And then we have our all-important SATA connection. Again, that goes in there. So that's typically how the device connects up. So you can see the power rail there with your data cable here. And this is how the data is transferred between the camera, the motherboard, and the DVR, and the hard disk recorder here, hard disk device. And then you've got your power cable, which plugs onto the motherboard, which powers this device. On the back of it, you'll see there's the control board. Not much more to see. And there's no user serviceable parts inside here. So wherefore I take this apart to destruct it for your benefit, it's not, don't do this. They're not user serviceable in any manner. And you can see I've removed the sticker, so there's no reference to any particular brand. So the control board is what controls this device. So I'm going to sit back down now and we'll take these cables off. A couple of things to point out with these. Now, depending on what size hard drive you have will depend on the amount of platters inside. The platter is the material which saves and stores the data, and how many read heads you'll have. So the back plate itself, so this black back plate, is normally formed in one mold with a metal lid on top of it, and we will destruct this. The control board bolts on for your power and data connection. Now, a lot of people generally ask why these are so expensive, and there are several reasons. Now, compared to a normal desktop hard drive, we'll point that out in a minute. And there is mounting holes on the side, just so for you guys that need to side mount them onto the side rails in some applications. Okay, so the technology is very, very clever inside here. Not only is there platters, and there's the read heads which read and write the data to this. A surveillance hard drive, depending on the manufacturer, the technology at its time, because technology moves on quite quickly, and the size of the hard disk itself. Now, that will depend on the platter material or the platter count, the read heads, etc. But they're very, very clever. This effectively is a sealed unit. When this is powered and spinning up, you can actually hear it. When it spins up, you'll hear like a vortex sound, for want of a better word. Now, they're designed in such a way, they're almost like an aeroplane. If you could imagine an aeroplane wing, where it's aerodynamically designed. So as the disk and the platters spin, that generates effectively a vortex. That vortex will lift the read and write head on this device here. So it actually keeps it just above the platter material. They don't technically touch. So they're designed in such a way that the aerodynamics play a big part in not only the efficiency and the read-write speed, and how this performs, but the detail and the design element that goes into a hard disk is much, much more than people give it credit for. Like I said, this is the core fundamental of any system, and that's why we're deciding to show you it, so you guys have a better understanding. And please leave as many comments as you want. There's going to be a lot of stuff I miss, a lot of stuff that you guys want to ask or correct me on, so please, I'm not the expert, the world leading expert in hard drives, so please do, if you think I've missed something, leave a comment below. Okay, so as the platter spins, it creates a vortex which lifts the read-write head. Therefore, when these are spinning, if you were, for instance, like to drop these, it would bounce the read and write head off the platter, therefore damaging or potentially damaging the platter, and therefore giving you that read-write sector, which we do see from time to time, sector issues. Sometimes they are recoverable, sometimes it will damage this irreparably and it needs to be changed. And again, depending on the manufacturer, the hard drive speed or the hard drive size, the technology at play at time will depend on the RPM that this spins at. So the RPM, revolutions per minute, dictates how fast that platter will spin inside, or the platter formation spins inside of this device. It's a very, very interesting design and technology implementation. So we're going to take this apart now. So I have a screwdriver here, so I'm going to put the cables to the side. Firstly, we're going to remove the silver cap. Now, depending on how long this takes, I might have to fast forward some of this.
A few moments later.
Now that should come off. Yeah, that's off. You can see here some of that gasket seal I was on about. You can see on the edge there. I'm not sure, it's like a sort of like a silicone-y material. I could be wrong, so please feel free to correct me. Now you can see inside the device. So here it is. So here's that platter material that I talked about, and this particular device has 4 platters, I believe. I'll double check. We'll deconstruct this so you'll see. But you can see that nice shiny platter material. Look how ultra refractive that is. Hello, you can see me in it. These are the read-write heads. So you can see that that's what reads and writes to the platter. Depending on the manufacturer and the technology, some are double read-write heads, so they can read and write on both sides of this platter material. And again, depending on the manufacturer, they vary their platter material composition and how they do it technically. So I'm just speaking very generically here. This is the read-write head mechanism, which controls the read-write arm, and then it's linked to, well, they're linked by a ribbon cable. I'm not sure if you can see that. Linked by a ribbon cable which feeds down to these read-write heads. Those read-write heads are extremely minute, and we will start to deconstruct this, the poor hard drive. Now inside here, when I start taking this apart, there is magnets in here, which obviously is part of the technical setup. I believe most manufacturers still use iridium magnets. I could be completely lying there. They're very, very strong rare earth magnets. And we will start to take this apart, and you can see that in a very short space of time. So I'm going to start to take some of this mechanism apart. You can see with the read-write head, they do have some movement in it. You can see, if I just move there, you can see that is cantilevered, so it can move back and forth over the platter material. So you can see as this is operating, it starts on the inside spindle, and it can work its way out right to the outer edge, in and out. And this is where if you drop it, that will bounce up and down on the platter head. And I've already got grease on it, so this is effectively destroyed. But you can see the whole mechanism inside moves with it. So you can see they all read and write across the platter at the same time. I've just dropped something out with there. Okay, let's take this apart. When this is spinning, depending on the RPM, if you do power this up and spin it, that will spin very, very quickly, to the point where you can feel it, the rotational force on the hard drive in your hand when you disconnect it, because it'll still spin for a few seconds after. Fascinating technology. Okay, so you can see me now. I've changed a bit in here, so I'm going to deconstruct, move this over the side so you can still see this. Deconstruct this read-write head. Yeah, that's magnetized, all right. So you can see there's a magnet on there. So I've removed the first read-write plate here, which goes over the read-write arm mechanism, and that does have, there you can see there, the magnet on the rear there. So that is obviously part of the read-write arm mechanism, and you can see that how that moves inside now, yeah. And obviously when that goes across the disk head, it goes across there with that coil there, so obviously has an influential effect with the magnet. Okay, and you can see what I was talking about, that aeroplane wing design, the aerodynamics. You can see these are shaped like mini aeroplane wings to get that aerodynamic force across there. Okay, so we've done that part. Let's deconstruct the rest of the read-write head. Like I said, I'm doing this so you don't have to. You don't really want to destroy a £150 hard drive, right? And then we'll show you what that looks like. Again, so I've just disconnected the ribbon cable from here. So this is the motherboard or the connection board, which goes, I've just actually snapped it to be honest, which goes from there, so from that rear mechanism, through that board, through the ribbon cable onto these read-write heads. So that's done. Disconnect this motherboard so you can see what it looks like on the back. Now it's super important that you look after your hard drives. They have generally a 3 to 5 year working capacity depending on what you put in through it. Now each hard drive, the specification will differ. So right, okay, so you can see here I was deconstructing this board here. The battery ran out just as I was taking the last screw out, so you haven't missed anything. So we've taken all of the retaining screws out with this board. So we're going to remove that board, and you can see there's the connections, there's the componentry, and there's the connections. And that feed through to that ribbon cable that I just deconstructed. But you can also see where the touch points are. So there's 3 touch points on the back. So those 3 touch points there, where my finger is on that board, reference that. So when it touches on there, connects into this, the motor. So we'll deconstruct, we're still deconstructing, that's what we're doing. So you can see already we started to really strip this stuff out. So now we're going to remove this hard drive reader. And just as an interesting point when we're doing this hard drive platter material is generally made from like a glass substrate, aluminium substrate, ceramic substrate. Depending on the manufacturer, the technology at the time, they do differ, but that's kind of what it is, just so you've got an idea of that. Let's take out the platters. Oh, it's so fun. I love taking stuff apart. Not a fan of putting it back together, but taking it apart is definitely fun. Mr. Destructive. I'm so glad I caught that video before we did too long, and then you guys missed all of this. Final retaining screw from here. Yeah, right. You've got to take off this retaining cap. Don't worry, all of this will be disposed of in a very appropriate manner. You can see already where my hands have been all over this. The grease. Totally unusable now. But we knew that. We knew that, people. Right, that's the last retaining screw on that cover cap there. You lost that. Again, that just holds this platen material in place. And you can see another retaining ring. This is fun. Remove off this. We need to remove this read-write, this park bay. So this little thing I'm removing now generally is where the heads park, or stow, probably the correct word for that. Remove that. Get back in there. And we undo this. This should unscrew like this. So the discs are separated, or the platters are separated. There you go. And there, so you've got, they're separated by these, I guess, aluminium rings. And then these, they got a plastic one, and I guess aluminium. I guess they're guides that keep the platters spinning correctly. Because I guess some of these hard drives will spin at 7,200 RPM, 5,600 RPM, 9,200 RPM, depending on the manufacturer. Again, like I said, so that could be quite a volatile. You know, if you spin that at 10,000 RPM, that's lethal. You can see here. So these are the this had 3 platters. 3 platters, and it's probably double-sided read-write heads. So you can see they're that sort of thinness, and you can see that's just shiny material where the data is retained. And there's 3 of them, and they're even together. See, there's not much thickness to them. Very low profile. So these are the parts really so far. So we've got 3 platters. We've got all the parts that make up the platter head, part mechanism, electronic board, all the screws here. So we'll just bring this back here. All the board, all the material which makes up the read-write assembly here, plus that head that we deconstructed. Now, you can see that's where the motor is. Now you can see pretty much an empty shell now, apart from this read-write mechanism, which we're going to strip out now. You can see here, that's the motor mechanism, which spins up the mechanism, which is fed by that 3-ribbon cable assembly here. Let's see what's underneath this. Oh, it's just a bit of rubber, bit of foam. Obviously, it's probably just a bit of foam that was on there, probably stops it smashing into the metal underneath. And now we've got to try and deconstruct this. So again, another sticker on the back here, another warranty sticker. And this should free up the hard drive. Oh, sorry, that mechanism, and it did, it just fell out, look. So, another magnet, strong magnet. And then when they come together, they're extremely strong when they're together. So I believe they're iridium ones, but different ones are probably available. And you can see here, I've actually broken this, but you can see, I need to get close because this is going to be interesting. So you can see here that read-write head mechanism. If I just put it on there, and you can see the tiny heads. Tiny heads there. See those little black things where the screwdriver is? They're the read-write heads. And this had a read-write head on both sides. So they're double layer or double-sided platters. So there's a read-write head. The platter would sit there. So effectively, the platter sits in there. And you can see how that read-write head, it's very difficult to show you on the camera, would read and write on both sides of this mechanism. So you've got 3 slots. There's, you've got 3 slots. So 1 platter, 2 platter, 3 platter, both double-sided. And those read-write heads really are tiny. You can't just about see it, look. There you go. Just about see them. And that is the most important part of it. And you can see there's an electronic mechanism there, which obviously gives us data about the hard drive, the state of it, etc., and then feeds it back. And that nice 1-part machined aluminium, I believe that's aluminium, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 1-piece machined as well. So that obviously adds to the stability, the aerodynamic. You can see there, if I hold it like this, the aerodynamic shape is like an aeroplane wing. It's really important in the efficiency of the hard drive and how it performs. So you can see we've now got an empty shell. That's just a motor. I'm not going to bother taking that out. I could smash it out with a hammer. Kind of, why bother? But yeah, you can see there's the 1-piece machined shell. Motor with a connection on it, and everything just fits in. So it's a design, very simple in concept. So the connection board on the back where the 2 wires connect in, and then you've got your read-write platters with all the very few moving parts apart from the read-write head. So that'll spin on its own axis, and then these are the read-write heads that move up and down and read and write. So like I said, surveillance drives are optimized for this application. Lots and lots of technology and firmwares, improved parts. These are designed for 24/7 operation because we're reading and writing, or we're definitely writing 90% of the time to the hard disk and then reading approximately 10%. That will vary on application, I completely accept that. But these are optimized for 24/7 use. like 180 terabytes, 320 terabytes, rewrite capacity, whatever that is, depending on the manufacturer and drive in question. A surveillance drive is 16/7, not 24/7. Generally 16/7, so it's not designed for 24/7 application. That's another strong reason why you wouldn't use a desktop drive as a surveillance drive. These do cost more. You pay for what you get in this instance. And again, much more technically involved than a standard desktop drive. Now, the future, I think, is moving towards the solid state mechanism. Currently, SSDs for surveillance are very expensive. So if you were to look at a 1 terabyte SSD, it's very expensive now for 1 terabyte. You're getting up to the 4s and 8 terabyte in SSD, which I know there are some people which are exploring that. I think 4 is currently available commercially. They're super expensive. It would outweigh the case would be not to use it, because these are, in comparison, much more cost effective. The other reason for SSDs is the read-write, or the number of times you can read-write to it currently, or historically, has been quite low in comparison to this sort of technology. So that will improve undoubtedly. So in the very not too distant future, I think we will, when it comes commercially viable, everyone will move over to an SSD type application where these will be a thing of the past, just like 3.5-inch floppy drives, for instance. So yeah, I think that's the long-term future, is the SSD will take over from the hard drive technology. But I still think we're sort of 2 to 3 years really commercially before that happens. But it's an interesting proposition for sure, which will give more stability. These won't be affected by being knocked, etc. And the same with, and another thing with the surveillance enterprise drives, they've got added ability where if you put multiple drives into a chassis, then you need the RV sensors, the vibration type sensors, where it can do the read-write across multiple drives safely without causing a failure. And the same with the temperatures, etc. There's a lot more thought between a surveillance and an enterprise drive used in our application, in our world, like I said, compared to a standard desktop drive. So hopefully that's given you a nice insight. A lot of technology in this small little box, but it is the fundamental of any CCTV system. So please, got any comments, please leave them below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll destruct some more stuff. It's fun. It's really fun. So hopefully, just for note, this drive was actually returned as faulty. We tested it. It is a faulty drive. Therefore, we haven't destroyed a perfectly working drive for the purpose of a video. These parts will now go in the bin and disposed of in the correct manner. Other than that, stay safe and see you next week for another how-to video, or a destruction video at best.